Hello and welcome to my weekly video blog, and today on A.Vogel Talks Menopause I'm going to be giving you 4 tips to help with anger. Now if you like my tips and advice, then please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you can be reminded of my new videos each week. So can the menopause cause anger? And the answer is definitely yes. It's amazing how many women come to me and they're really concerned or surprised about how angry they get over things. It's mainly due to falling estrogen. And the main thing that's happening here is that as your estrogen falls, it's actually releasing your emotional control on your feelings. So instead of being in a situation where you feel angry and you go, oh, I can't be angry, I've got to be nice, I've got to have a smile on my face, literally that self-control disappears and the anger just bursts forth. Now, there are a lot of problems with this. It can be also accompanied by things like irritation, impatience, and sometimes there can be a combination of high testosterone as well. And I know, we tend to think of estrogen and progesterone as our main hormones, but women have a small amount of testosterone as well. And when your hormones are starting to change, that balance can go topsy-turvy and testosterone can end up higher. And it's the high testosterone as well that can give you more kind of masculine traits like the anger and the aggression. And some women find too in this situation that they start to get hair growing in places where they don't want it. So things like on the chin and the upper lip as well. What can happen here is that the anger can be very frightening, because if you're used to being in control of your emotions and suddenly you're just letting rip at everybody, not only is it shocking them, but it can really shock you as well. And then afterwards, you will probably start to get really annoyed and angry with yourself for losing control, maybe for being not very nice to the person who was on the other end. And that then creates this whole guilt scenario, which makes you feel worse, and it just gets like a vicious circle. It can be very disconcerting and hurtful for close family members, because suddenly they are seeing someone before them that they don't recognize. It can also be hard when you're at work, especially if you have the type of job where you may spend a lot of time with members of the public, where there may be a little bit of confrontation anyway. And I know one lady told me that she got so fed up of her boss, she just basically stamped her feet and walked out and said goodbye, because she literally got so angry with the whole scheme of things here. For some people though, they actually enjoy the anger. I had one of my colleagues just the other week come to me saying, oh, that menopause anger kicked in the other day. Somebody had basically, a stranger had confronted her when she was out walking her dog, and she said that normally she would have said nothing and just, bowed her head and walked away. And she said, I went straight in there, and she said it actually felt really good. And another friend of mine loved her little anger face, because she said it was the first time in her life that she could be totally honest and truthful with people. Not quite sure what her friends and family thought, but for that little phase where she had these emotions, it felt really good for her. But things you can do to help yourself, especially if you feel that your anger is really getting out of control, or people are starting to comment on the fact that you're being very, very short-tempered. Exercise is great for a variety of reasons. It can release that kind of pent-up feeling, especially if the anger has been building up over the day, or maybe through a period of your work, something like that. The exercises that I think you would find really good are things like yoga and deep breathing. These can be very calming, can be very solidifying exercises that can ground you. The other one is completely the opposite, is things like boxercise, where you can really thump away all that anger and frustration and irritability. I must admit I like that one. Not only can it get rid of everything that's pent up, but it's really good for strengthening your shoulders and your arms as well. The other one is just walking. If you can get out and have a nice, reasonably brisk walk at some point during the day, if you're somewhere lucky where you can get a little bit of fresh air and plants and trees and the sunshine, that can go a long way just to calming you down and making you feel that little bit better. Number 2 would be diet. It's amazing how many foods and drinks can contribute to irritability and anger. So things like your caffeine, your high salt and sugar foods, your fizzy drinks and your fruit juices. If you find that you're getting the anger at the same time every day, then that's the point when you can do one of these diaries. Just write down everything that you're eating and drinking, and you might find that the anger pops up because you've recently had a very strong cup of coffee, or you've had half a packet of biscuits, or you haven't eaten or drunk for a while. So it can be a very useful one. That will then give you that much more control over these anger outbursts. Just look at your diet generally. Are you eating enough good foods to give your nervous system plenty of support? The more stable your nervous system is, then the less likely you're going to lose control and get that bit angry. So number 3 is looking at supplements and herbs. Magnesium, it's great for absolutely everything, so make sure that you're getting enough in your diet and through supplements. You can look at our menopause support if it's appropriate. It contains soya in a fermented form, which is known to help just sort of balance and raise your estrogen just that little bit more gently. And maybe just a really good all-round vitamin and mineral supplement as well. That you certainly can't go wrong with that. Remember the water, because dehydration is another situation that will certainly stress your nervous system. So lots of plain water during the day. And the last but not least is talk about how you're feeling. If your family or friends or work colleagues are dropping hints that you're getting very irritable and maybe losing your temper that little bit more, then if you can sit down with them and just say, look, this isn't me, this is what's happening to me, it's my hormones, I'm just that little bit short-tempered, but you know, in most instances, this is just one of the phases of the menopause. And these things tend to ease off and disappear at some point. But giving people a warning that you may be that little bit more irritable and angry means that they're then less likely to react to how you're behaving, and you're not going to end up with the whole situation escalating. This is quite a fascinating symptom in the menopause because it can lead to all sorts of situations. So hopefully this has helped. If any of you have any other tips that you've found to be very useful for you when you were in your angry phase, then I would love to hear about it. And until then, I'll see you next week for another edition of A.Vogel Talks Menopause.